Unexpected moment. Mafia boss, stunned as Waitress delivers amazing Italian comeback. Discover. Maria had always dreamed of culinary greatness, but the weight of expectation from her family pressed down heavily on her shoulders. At 27, surrounded by the noise of clinking plates and patrons in a bustling Newark restaurant, she tapped into that emotional strain nightly. For some, the scent of marinara sauce mixed with garlic might evoke memories of warmth. For Maria, it ignited a struggle. Each night she poured her heart into serving customers, smiling through the fatigue of late shifts, knowing her family believed she could lift them from their modest beginnings. But tonight, as she wiped down tables and exchanged pleasantries with regulars, the air felt different, charged with an unsettling energy. Tony strolled in, the infamous Mafia boss whose reputation preceded him. He wore power like an expensive suit, sharp and unwavering. The moment he stepped through the door, Maria's stomach knotted. With a dismissive sneer, he eyed her apron and muttered something about lowly aspirations. The comment struck a nerve, each syllable a dagger against her dreams. Frustration ignited within her, a fiery resolve struggling against the familiar feeling of inadequacy that lurked just beneath the surface. How dare he belittle everything she worked for? The kitchen became her refuge, a sanctuary of simmering pots where she could channel her anger into creation. As she chopped fresh basil and mingled marinara with her grandmother's treasured recipes, memories flooded back. Her grandmother's hands guiding hers through recipes, each layered with history. In that chaos of passion, Maria felt alive. But shadows of doubt crept in. How would she measure up against Tony's judgment? Their path had crossed once, and the dismissal stung. This cooking competition in the neighborhood represented more than just a chance to showcase her talent. It felt like a battle against preconceptions. Before we continue, I need to tell you about something important that's happening. YouTube has been making changes to the system, and many people are losing notifications from channels they follow. If you're enjoying the content, click the bell and mark all notifications so you don't miss the next videos. And if you can leave a like, it really helps with reach. Seriously, it makes a difference. Oh, tell me in the comments where you're watching from. I'm always curious to know who's on the other side of the screen. Now let's continue. As days passed leading up to the competition, the tension intensified. Friends and family rallied around, weaving words of encouragement that served as both balm and pressure. Their belief pushed her, but each passing moment made her wonder if she was strong enough to confront not just Tony, but the recognition she desperately craved. The day arrived, the atmosphere buzzing with excitement tinged with her anxiety.
Maria looked at the judge panel, her heart racing as her eyes landed on Tony. His piercing gaze felt like a spotlight, a predator assessing its prey. She approached him with a laser focus, plate in hand, her grandmother's secret lasagna, infused with love and her own spin. Hands shaking slightly, she placed the dish before him. Time seemed to freeze as he lifted a forkful, poised and powerful, in a silence that hung in the air, thick with anticipation. What would happen next? Would he dismiss her again? Would this be her moment of triumph or another denial? Every layer of her dish reflected not just flavor, but the heartache and history of her family's culinary legacy. As he savored the first bite, a flicker of something unrecognizable crossed his face, yet uncertainty loomed heavily. Now the tension spun tighter, and Maria stood, proud but fearful, ready to challenge not only his biases, but also to face the echoes of her familial obligations. With this competition redefine not just perceptions, but their fates, the moment was teetering on the edge of possibility, and she could only wait, breath held, for the revelation that could change everything. Maria's heart thundered against her chest, the weight of anticipation suffocating as she dared to hope. She watched Tony's expression shift, the flicker in his eyes lingering for just a breath longer than expected. She had poured her essence into that lasagna, melding her grandmother's wisdom with her own flair, and for a moment it felt like it might connect with the intimidating presence before her. But as the silence stretched uncomfortably, doubt clawed at her. Tony swallowed, a process that felt interminably slow, as the entire restaurant seemed to hold its breath alongside her. He set the fork down, a calculated move that ignited a fresh wave of anxiety within her. The audience, a blend of her supporters and skeptics, shifted in their seats. For Maria, these moments were pivotal. They could either launch her into the world she dreamed of, or shatter the fragile confidence she had built. "Not bad," he stated, his voice dark and smooth like espresso. But what did that mean? Her throat tightened, a rush of adrenaline coursing through her veins. "That's it?" she responded, braver than she felt. It was a spark of defiance, a challenge against his authority. The words escaped before she could censor them,
and suddenly she stood toe-to-toe with the man who had belittled her purpose. There was power in that impulsive confrontation, a realization that fear could fuel her resolve. He met her gaze, eyebrows raised in surprise. "You think you can impress me with a lasagna? What makes you special?" His tone dripped with condescension, but there was a flicker of curiosity hidden beneath. "I'm not just serving food," she shot back, her voice steadier than she believed. "I'm serving my heritage, my dreams, and if that's not special in your book, then maybe it's you who needs to change your perspective."
Each word echoed against the walls of her upbringing, her family's sacrifices ringing in her ears. The years spent in the kitchen weren't just about cooking, they were the pulse of her identity. The corners of his mouth twisted slightly, as if to suppress a smirk. "That fire is admirable, but do you really think it's enough to win this competition?" His challenge hung suspended in the air, igniting not just the room, but also a new flame within Maria. In that instant, something inside her began to shift. No longer was she merely a waitress or the product of her family's expectations. She could be an artist, a creator not just of dishes, but of perceptions. All those hours spent perfecting recipes, the countless evenings spent experimenting with flavors, were arrows in her quiver now. It all led to this moment, where she could redefine what it meant to aspire in a world where others dictated her limits. "Just watch," she replied, determination surging through her veins like wildfire. It was a decision solidified within her. She would stand up against the judgments and shape her own narrative. As the competition progressed, Maria harnessed the energy buzzing around her. There were rounds of fine-tuning her techniques, witnessing other contestants falter under pressure, and observing the crowd's reactions. But with each passing moment, her anxiety twisted into focus. A fire ignited, propelling her forward, each dish crafted not just to impress Tony, but to affirm her place in the culinary world. The culmination approached, and Maria faced the final challenge, a signature round where she would have to showcase her most daring dish. With the weight of expectations hovering, the fear of failed expectations bubbled beneath the surface. Yet what terrified her more was not the thought of losing, but the idea of retreating back into a life overshadowed by others' opinions. Her mind raced as she planned her creation, combining the classic flavors that shaped her childhood with innovative elements that reflected her growth. This was a moment where she could assert herself, a fragile caterpillar ready to break free from the confines of her assumptions. The clock ticked down, and as she plated her final dish, a singular thought crystallized in her mind. She was more than what Tony could ever deem her to be. As the judges began to taste, their expressions inscrutable, Maria braced for the outcome. Would this be her opportunity to break free from the past, or would she find herself ensnared in the very doubts she sought to escape? No matter the ending, she would confront it head-on, ready to fight for her dreams. The moment of truth was upon her, and she inhaled deeply, standing on the precipice of what could be, a decision that could redefine everything. What would Tony say? Would his verdict not just shape her competition, but dictate her future? The atmosphere crackled with tension as Maria stood, gripping the edge of her station with trembling fingers. Every beat of her heart echoed the fear and excitement swirling within. The judges exchanged glances, their expressions unreadable. As they sampled her dish, a quiet desperation clawed at her mind. Would this moment solidify her journey, or would it seal her fate in mediocrity? Time felt suspended, each second stretching into eternity. She shifted her weight, channeling every ounce of her energy into a fierce determination. These judges housed the power to tilt her world, to reinforce or shatter her budding identity as a chef. They were not just evaluating her dish, they were sizing her up in ways that transcended the culinary arts. The first judge, a stern-looking woman with sharp features, considered her take on the traditional dish. A glimmer of approval flickered in her eyes, yet Maria's heart sank as a fleeting smile passed before it was replaced by the judging glare she had come to expect. "Your flavors are bold," she began, pausing to reconnect with her critique. "But can they hold up against the competition?" The words pierced through Maria like a knife. Once again, doubt eked into her consciousness. Was her heritage enough to captivate discerning palates? How could she assure these judges that her heart was poured into each layer of flavor and not just the superficiality of competition? The second judge, a flamboyant man with a theatrical flair, took his turn. He savored a bite, rolling it across his palate with exaggerated delight. "You've managed to merge tradition with your own unique style," he declared, and Maria felt her resolve strengthen. A spark of hope ignited within her, urging her to trust in her instincts. But does your creativity translate into a sustainable concept? It isn't just about one dish, it's about the culinary journey you wish to forge. She swallowed hard, aware that this feedback was not only about her dish, but also about her vision as a chef. Did she have the courage to envision her place in an industry that seems so unforgiving? Imagining the next steps in this journey filled her with both trepidation and excitement. Could she meld her classic roots with innovative culinary techniques to create something distinctly her own? Finally, it was Tony's turn. He appeared less theatrical than the others, his calm demeanor a stark contrast to the swirling uncertainty within her. He took a deliberate bite, his facial expression unreadable. Silence enveloped the space as he chewed thoughtfully. The air hung thick with unspoken judgment. Her heart raced anew as she caught a hint of emotion in his crafted expression. Curiosity, perhaps? She dared to hope for something more, while oscillating between doubt and determination. Was it possible that he might finally see her as more than a mere waitress? After what felt like an eternity, he spoke, his words weighed with intent. "You took a risk with this, blending the old with the new. But can you consistently deliver this level of passion and innovation beyond this moment?"
Maria inhaled, the question echoing in her mind. Could she? Fear rippled through her, but it was accompanied by an emboldened realization. She was ready to take on the challenge. No longer just a shadow of her former self, she demanded the right to carve out her future as she envisioned. "Absolutely," she replied, feeling the fire of her conviction ignite. "This isn't just a dish, it's a representation of my identity, a nod to the journey that shaped me, and I'm just getting started." Each word felt like an anchor, rooting her in newfound assurance. As the competition moved towards its conclusion, Maria faced an internal reckoning. What would it take to truly harness the passion she felt bubbling within? It wasn't enough to rely solely on her culinary abilities. She needed to explore the depths of her creativity and confront the fears that had shadowed her for years. In the weeks that followed, she began to experiment relentlessly, not just with ingredients, but with techniques and presentation, each attempt lifting her spirits higher. She sought out mentors, engaged in conversations with other chefs, and pushed herself to test limits, committing to the idea of growth in every facet of her craft. But confronting the world of culinary excellence meant grappling with the inevitable comparisons, including Tony's lingering shadow. Could she sustain her momentum when faced with the weight of expectation fresh on her heels? As she moved towards her next opportunity, Maria found herself standing precariously on the edge of uncertainty and ambition, motivated by an insatiable desire to prove herself. Would she find clarity within the chaos and continue on this transformative path? The next challenge awaited her, and with it, the question: could she fully embrace the artistry of creation, or would she falter under pressure again? Maria's days transformed into a relentless whirlwind of fiery creativity and self-discovery. The kitchen became her sanctuary, where the clatter of pots and the rich aroma of spices enveloped her, fueling her ambition. Each dish she created wasn't merely about flavor, it became a canvas for her personal narrative. She began to see her culinary creations not as standalone moments, but as chapters of a growing story, her story. Determined to shatter any remnants of self-doubt, Maria dedicated her evenings to perfecting a signature dish that embodied not just her heritage, but also her new vision as a chef. The concept began to crystallize in her mind, a fusion of classic Italian techniques interwoven with unexpected American twists, a celebration of both her roots and her new realities. She envisioned a vibrant pasta dish adorned with seasonal local vegetables and a sauce that would tell the tale of her heart and heritage. Weeks passed, and Maria felt an exhilarating mix of anxiety and excitement as she prepared for a pop-up dinner event, a platform to showcase her transformation.
She meticulously forged connections with local farmers to source fresh ingredients, the authenticity of her vision intertwining with the community around her. With each interaction, her confidence swelled. It was not just the quality of her food she was cultivating, it was her identity in the culinary landscape. Yet shadows of uncertainty remained, a gnawing truth. She was seeking validation from someone who represented both challenge and aspiration. Could she be her own measure of success, unfazed by his scrutiny? On the evening of the pop-up event, the pressure felt palpable. The kitchen buzzed like a living creature as she coordinated the final touches. Timing and precision were the lifeblood of the night. As she plated her dish, her hands moved instinctively, a dance of memory and emotion. Every garnish, every drizzle of sauce spoke of her journey, the struggles she faced, and the triumphs that lay in her hands. As guests sampled the food, Maria slipped into the background, observing their reactions. The laughter and compliments enveloped her like a warm blanket, soothing the residual doubts that still flickered inside. When she saw the first forkful of her pasta being lifted toward a guest's eager mouth, she held her breath. Would they understand her message? Would they taste the passion woven into every bite? Just then, Tony entered the room, his presence sending a jolt of mixed emotions through her. He was a formidable figure, often dictating the tone of any culinary conversation. As he surveyed the plates, Maria's heart raced. Was this an opportunity or a threat? Would he recognize the evolution of her craft, or would he dismiss it as mere ambition? He approached her station, his demeanor unreadable. Interesting. Fusion, he remarked casually, but Maria sensed the weight behind his words. Thank you, she said, holding his gaze. The remnants of her insecurities transformed into resolve. True to you, he echoed, his brows furrowed in thought. A hint of curiosity flickered in his eyes. In that moment, Maria faced a crossroads. Would she crumble or rise, exposing her authentic self amidst the expectations? As the event unfolded and conversations thrived, she made a choice. Rather than filtering her voice through fear, she would let her passionate expressions shine through her work. As the evening wrapped and applause filled the air like a soothing melody, Maria understood this was not just about pleasing her audience. It was about carving out her identity with impassioned determination. Yet in the depths of her success, a nagging doubt emerged. Could she maintain this momentum? Was she truly ready for the long-term expectations of the culinary scene, especially with Tony poised to critique her further? The transformative evening concluded, promising new beginnings, but bearing the weight of fresh questions. With the next day looming ahead, Maria felt an unfamiliar thrill coursing through her veins. The world of potential awaited, but so did the shadows of commitment and accountability. Would she embrace her newfound voice, or would the pressure of perfection devolve her into chaos once more? The dawn light sliced through the small kitchen window, bathing the room in a golden hue. Maria stood at her workstation, the remnants of last night's success still echoing in her mind. Her hands, though tired, moved with purpose as she prepared for the day. The applause she had received lingered like a warm afterglow, yet beneath it, an unresolved tension simmered. What if last night had merely been a flash in the pan? She shook the remnants of doubt from her head and focused on creating her next dish. She couldn't afford to get complacent. Her vision expanded beyond that single return. Each plate needed to be a step forward, a building block of credibility. In the back of her mind, she knew competition in the culinary industry was fierce. She needed to innovate and evolve continuously. As she gathered ingredients, the day ahead felt daunting yet exhilarating. A local food critic was scheduled to visit the restaurant soon, and his reputation for brutal honesty sent a shiver down Maria's spine. While her confidence had surged following the pop-up event, the specter of judgment loomed large. This is more than cooking, she muttered to herself. It's about being seen, being heard. The kitchen filled with the scent of roasted garlic and herbs as Maria meticulously began recreating her beloved pasta dish with a twist, an unexpected spicy kick from Calabrian chili peppers to complement her sauce. The idea had burrowed into her mind overnight, and just as excitement propelled her forward, fear danced at the edges. Would this risque flavor combination be perceived as daring or reckless? Halfway through her culinary routine, Tony stepped into the kitchen, an imposing figure against the backdrop of simple white tiles. His presence froze the air. Maria's heart raced. She had hoped to shape her work away from the prying eyes of his critique, to gather her thoughts before facing him again. But here he was, right in the midst of her creative process. Still experimenting, I see, he said, arms crossed. The mixture of curiosity and skepticism in his voice struck a familiar chord. Yes, she replied, her tone defiance wrapped in determination. I'm trying to push boundaries. Is that so? He leaned closer,
inspecting the simmering sauce with a scrutinizing gaze. Or are you just trying to capture attention? Her pulse quickened. The words felt like a challenge, provoking a reaction that threatened her composure. Was her desire for recognition a flaw? Shouldn't chefs create authenticity rather than ride on the coattails of intrigue?
Maybe a bit of both, she said, meeting his intense gaze with newfound fortitude. In that moment, Maria realized she'd shifted. She was no longer seeking his approval, but rather asserting her right to explore her culinary identity. Still, self-doubt whispered insidiously in her ear as she plated the dish, the vibrant colors contrasting beautifully against the ivory backdrop of the ceramic plate. Each element was laden with meaning, a vivid representation of her heritage, now morphed into an innovative experience. As she presented the dish to Tony, his eyes flickered with intrigue, and she saw the gears turning in his mind. She knew this was an opening, a chance for dialogue beyond hierarchy. "Take a taste," she urged, a tinge of defiance coloring her words. He hesitated momentarily, caught off guard by her challenge. Then, with a nod, he took a bite. Silence enveloped them, thick with anticipation. Maria watched as his expression shifted from critical to contemplative, before finally revealing a begrudging expression of respect. "Bold. I see what you're doing here," he said slowly, and for a fleeting moment Maria felt a release. Yet the enormity of what this feedback might mean for her career hung heavily in the air. Was she truly ready to challenge not only herself, but also the existing culinary order? As confidence and fear battled for dominance within her, Maria faced another pivotal decision. Did she keep pushing forward, embracing the risk of her culinary identity, or retreat to the safer shore of classic recipes that he might approve? From the kitchen, the hustle of a busy day loomed ahead, each order a potential new milestone. The applause from last night was now a distant memory, but its weight urged her toward daring choices. Would she embrace the complexity of her craft, navigating the dangerous waters of expectation and creativity, or succumb to the fear of imperfection? The path ahead twisted dramatically as the door swung open, revealing a mysterious figure from her past, a childhood friend who had always believed in her ambitions. In an unexpected twist, he carried news that could shake her culinary dreams to their core. Maria felt the air in the kitchen shift as her childhood friend David stepped through the door. His presence was a jolt, a sudden influx of nostalgia swirling with apprehension. David had been her anchor during her formative years, championing her dreams with unwavering belief. But now, his return threatened to upend the delicate balance she had achieved in her culinary journey. "Maria," he greeted, a bright smile straining against an undercurrent of seriousness. "I've been hearing great things about you." "Thanks, but I'm a bit busy," she replied half-heartedly, her mind racing to process the moment. Her focus was split between the roaring demands of the kitchen and the unexpected revival of their long-dormant friendship. Despite the warmth of recognition, unease gnawed at her insides. "What brings you here?" "We need to talk," he said, the gravity of his tones slicing through the culinary banter surrounding them. It was as though a cloud had formed over their shared history, obscuring the wholesome memories of their youthful aspirations. Realizing the chaos of halting her work might lead to misunderstandings, she gestured for him to step aside. They settled near a quieter corner of the kitchen, the fading echoes of whirling pots momentarily muted as the chef and friend faced each other. "Is everything okay?" Maria asked, concern weaving through her tone. "Not really." His eyes bore depth, revealing a complexity behind his emotional armor. "The family is involved in some uncomfortable stuff." A chill crept down her spine. David's family had always been tied to an undercurrent of danger, whispers barely concealed within their tight-knit community. Maria's thoughts raced. Did this mean trouble was closing in, or that her life was about to become a chaotic thread of choices she never wanted to make? "Just tell me what you mean," she pressed, her heart accelerating as the uncertainty wrapped around her. He took a breath, glancing around. "They're interested in your restaurant. They think you're quite talented and believe you could help boost connections, with the right support, of course." "Help?" The word lodged in her throat. "Support?" She felt her stomach twist. It was a dangerous line of thought. Would the backing of a notorious family come with chains she'd regret wearing? Her desire to evolve as a chef
clashed with the reality of potential entanglements. Maria, listen, I know you don't want anything to do with that world. But if you take this chance, you'd have access, suppliers, venues, visibility. You could expand. Your talent deserves that. Expand how? She fought to keep her tone steady, battling against the whirlwind of disbelief and frustration. By trading away my integrity. You see what they do. I'm building something authentic. David sensed the tension rising and softened his approach. It's not like that. You can control it. Besides, not everything about the family is bad. You know I wouldn't steer you wrong. His words echoed in her mind as the conflicting paths danced before her. Risks presented tantalizing opportunities for growth. Her heart raced. The hunger for recognition and brilliance pulsed within her. But was this the ticket to her culinary future, or a path leading toward a life she had fought desperately to escape? Maria, he urged, this might be the foothold you need. Standing in the kitchen, engulfed in the aromas that had become her lifeblood, she felt the urgency of the moment. The imminent visit from the critic loomed overhead, her fingers itching to create something that spoke to her soul. And now, the prospect of unearthing bonds with David presented her with another layer to balance precariously upon. I need time, she finally said, her voice edged with resolve. This isn't a decision I can make lightly.
As David nodded in understanding, Maria's mind spun with possibilities, each one tinged by the danger of loss or the risk of dismissal. The delicate web of her culinary aspirations hung suspended. She had to confront not only her dreams of fame, but also the very essence of her identity. Before she could disentangle herself to resume her duties, the door swung open again, catching the ear of the kitchen staff, this time revealing the food critic himself, a stoic figure cloaked in anticipation. The moment was unfolding like a banquet before her, one that could alter her trajectory forever. Could she balance integrity and ambition, or had she unknowingly overstepped into perilous waters? The kitchen felt charged as the critic approached, his eyes lingering on her freshly plated dish. Would she possess the fortitude to convey her vision amid the clashing revelations threatening to drown her resolve? The time had come to face the depths of her culinary dreams, and most dauntingly, the unseen shadows lurking in their wake. Maria's heart drummed in her chest, a relentless rhythm that fueled her thoughts with both dread and anticipation. The critic was not merely a figure who wielded influence, he symbolized opportunity and a test of her convictions. As he approached the counter, her senses sharpened, every ingredient in front of her a reminder of the love and labor poured into her creations. This was the moment she had envisioned for years, yet it felt discolored by the recent storm of emotions ignited by David's visit. She believed in her craft. Every dish was a story of resilience, authenticity, and artistry. But the prospect of facing a critic who could spell success or failure loomed over her like a specter, especially with David's unsettling offer ringing in her ears. The critic's gaze pierced through her, searching for more than just a culinary delight. He wanted insight, he sought passion, and in that fluid moment, Maria felt her entire essence weighed against the backdrop of ambition versus integrity. Today I present to you a dish inspired by my roots, she began, her voice steady despite the tumult within. It's a fusion of flavors that represent warmth, tradition, and most importantly, honesty. She plated her signature gnocchi, a perfect blend of her grandmother's recipe and a modern twist that reflected her culinary journey. As she explained each element, every sprinkle of herb and drizzle of sauce, she also wove in snippets of her journey as a chef, cultivating a narrative that was deeply personal and infinitely relatable. It was her chance to showcase not just food, but the spirit of her labor. But while she spoke, doubt slithered into her thoughts. Could she afford to remain true to herself when such a tempting offer from the dark side hung tantalizingly close? Was she truly capable of navigating the dangerous waters should she choose to ally with David's family?
She watched closely as the critic dissected her dish, his fork lingering over the pasta, his expression inscrutable. Each second stretched, a taut line of anxiety that tugged at her core. Did he appreciate her narrative? Did he see the depths of her commitment to culinary craft? His fork hesitated, the air thick with anticipation. Then He took the tiniest bite, savoring it slowly. His eyes widened briefly, and for a heartbeat, Maria felt the weight of hope burgeon in her chest. "This dish possesses a boldness that belies its simplicity," he finally said, his tone shifting to a more serious note. "But let me ask you something, Maria. What do you truly want? Do you envision accolades, or are you devoted to the heartfelt connections behind each meal?" A chill swept through her as his question echoed in her mind. It was the genuine confrontation she dreaded, a spotlight that illuminated her deepest fears and desires. Did she want the limelight, or the satisfaction of knowing her cooking was about more than mere flavors? "Both," she replied instinctively, "but integrity matters most." His gaze softened. "Then you must decide how to navigate this world you're stepping into. Power often comes at a price, and the shadows you mentioned can be quite enticing. Know it's your craft that will define you, not your associations." As he walked away, leaving her with that piercing question, a new resolve began to take root. Maria realized she stood at a crossroads, grappling with the seductive lure of power and the invaluable gift of authenticity. In that moment, grounding herself in the smells and sounds of her kitchen, she understood she wasn't just a chef, she was a storyteller, a curator of experiences far more intricate than the meals she prepared. With the critic's words echoing, Maria turned back to her work, her mind racing to construct a strategy. She needed to refine her vision, to embrace what made her unique while warding off potential shadows. And that's when she caught sight of David waiting outside, his expression unreadable. She felt torn, her ambitions intermingled with the echoes of their past friendship, a duality that could either elevate or ensnare her. "Maria," he called, drawing nearer. She inhaled deeply, ready to confront the shifting tides of her life. The choices she faced held the weight of consequence, but she would no longer allow herself to be uncertain. "I'll think about your offer," she said, determination resurrecting her voice, "but I need to carve my own path." As she recentered her focus on the kitchen, a mix of clarity and urgency swirled within her. Her culinary vision demanded attention, the path ahead of her slowly brightening into focus. How would she define her path in a world where authenticity was often overshadowed by cower? And could she cultivate connections that aligned with her values? The moment loomed, teasing her with the proximity of answers, while keeping the uncertainties just beyond reach.
Maria stepped outside, the cool evening air striking her like a gust of reality. David stood before her, his casual demeanor hiding the tension simmering beneath. She felt the weight of his expectations, and her own unresolved tensions coiling around them. "Can we talk?" His voice was steady, but she could sense the urgency behind it. "About what?" she replied, crossing her arms as if to shield herself from the rawness of their past. "About us, about the offer. I know my family has a reputation, but I believe in what we could build together." He stepped closer, a glimmer of hope in his eyes. "It can work if we make it about the food, your food." Maria's stomach nodded. Opportunities arose from the shadows David represented, yet pursuing them felt like stepping deeper into murky waters. The critic's words echoed in her mind, a solemn reminder of her quest for integrity. "I need time," she said, her tone firmer than she felt. David's expression shifted, disappointment flickering across his features. "Time? I thought you wanted to grow, to reach the next level." "On my own terms," Maria replied. "This isn't just about ambition, it's about staying true to myself." I sensed a flicker of annoyance in David's posture. "You think I want to overshadow you? I want us to elevate each other. Emotions aside, can't you see the potential?" His appeal resonated in a place she hadn't yet acknowledged, fear of failure clawing at her. But it was in that fear that a new determination blossomed. She recalled her gnocchi, rooted in personal significance, but infused with innovation. "Potential isn't enough for me, David. I want to create something that honors my journey. I won't compromise that for any vision, even yours." His face hardened slightly, defensiveness warring with vulnerability. "You think opening doors will ruin your craft? The culinary world is cutthroat. If you want to succeed, you need allies, not just principles." "I need both," she countered, her voice strong yet gentle. "I refuse to sacrifice my authenticity for temporary accolades." There was a moment of silence, where all unspoken words hovered, heavy with unresolved feelings. Maria could see the mixture of admiration and frustration in David's eyes. They were both standing at a precipice, poised to leap, together,
or apart. I don't want to stand in your way, Maria, but mark my words, it doesn't get easier from here. His voice softened, brushing away the hardness. Just think about it. I'll always be in your corner. As he turned to leave, Maria felt a rush of uncertainty, as a surge of adrenaline coursed through her. That conversation had catalyzed something in her, a clearer vision of the trajectory she desired. Finding the balance between ambitions felt daunting, yet necessary. She refused to be just another name in David's family roster. And yet, the prospect of collaboration tantalized her. Returning to her kitchen, Maria was met with the familiar soothing sense of basil and garlic.
She observed the ingredients lining her counter, a canvas waiting to be transformed. Inspired, she sketched in her notebook, merging her family's traditions with fresh ideas. It was time to test her limits and see just how far she could stretch herself. Each conscious decision led her toward the path she envisioned, one where authenticity took precedence. A knock on the door sliced through her thoughts. The critic stood there, his expression serious but curious. "I've thought about your dish, and I want to discuss something that could benefit both of us. Meet me tomorrow." Her heart raced. Was this the moment of opportunity she had sought, or would it draw her deeper into a world she wished to sidestep? With each passing second, she felt more certain that her next move would define her future. "Okay," she managed to respond, thoughts swirling with the implications of this second chance. As the door closed behind him, Maria stood alone in her kitchen, invigorated yet apprehensive. Could she navigate the fine line between remaining true to her culinary voice while also asserting herself within a competitive sphere? The battle between ambition and integrity would be fraught, but she sensed she was finally ready to confront the shadows looming in her path. What awaited her in that meeting could either illuminate her journey or further entangle her in a web of expectations. The ticking clock intensified her anticipation, its rhythm resonating with every heartbeat.
As she plated her signature dish, margarita gnocchi infused with vibrant tomato sauce, she felt a surge of adrenaline mixed with her lingering anxiety. The deep red of the tomato contrasted beautifully with the creamy white mozzarella. It represented her journey in a way nothing else could, a tribute to authenticity amidst external pressures. With the dish complete, she closed her eyes, taking a deep breath, recalled the critic's visits, sharp glances and caustic remarks. She knew nothing less than perfection would suffice to win this battle. The sanctity of her culinary voice had to shine through, whether he appreciated it or not. When the clock struck the appointed hour, Maria found herself standing at the door, every beat of her heart resonating in her ears. The critic arrived precisely on time, a polished expression masking intrigue. He stepped inside her kitchen, eyes scanning the space before catching sight of the carefully plated dish on the counter. "Impressive," he remarked, moving closer, his tone unnervingly measured. "Let's see if it lives up to the aesthetics." Maria felt a rush of vulnerability wash over her. Carefully, she presented the dish, hoping to communicate not just flavors, but her story. "I wanted to blend traditional elements with something modern. It originates from my family's recipe, but evolves into something new." The critic lifted his fork, taking a deliberate bite. Maria watched, holding her breath as he chewed slowly, anxiety coiling in her stomach. His expression remained inscrutable, which only compounded her tension. Would he see the layers of her history and the creative leap she'd taken? Moments dragged into eternities as she observed every subtle shift in his demeanor. The tension in the air twisted around her like a vine, binding her to the outcome. Would her authenticity be acknowledged or dismissed? Finally, the critic spoke. "The gnocchi is light, yet nuanced. There's depth here, Maria. But," he paused, eyes narrowing, "you need to refine your vision even further." An inconvenient truth settled in her chest. His words dripped with critique, and she knew he wasn't finished. Was he merely commenting on the dish or scrutinizing her approach to the culinary world itself? The conversation unfolded, each word intricately woven with the weight of her future. They traversed the terrain of ambition, collaboration, and authenticity, each topic stirring potent emotions. Maria felt herself holding back, battling the urge to squirm at the edges of his tirade. Still, she needed to understand, to see through the criticism to potential growth. As she braced herself for the next revelation, the question lingered. How much of herself would she be willing to adjust while still hanging on to her core principles? The moment hung in the air, rich with implications, as Maria found herself at yet another crossroads. Would she mold herself to fit an ideal that wasn't hers,
or fight back and forge her own culinary path.
The scrutiny was far from over. She could feel it tightening around her like a cloak. The critic looked at her expectantly, ready to further dissect her vision. In this penultimate moment, she sensed it. Clarity was within reach, yet so were the shadows of compromise. She would need to choose her next words carefully, for they held the potential to redefine her journey. As the tension perched precariously, Maria steeled herself, aware that the answers could alter everything she stood for. Before I respond, there's something vital I need to tell you. Maria stood at the threshold of her culinary ambitions, a newfound strength coursing through her veins. The interaction with the critic had crystallized her understanding. This journey was hers to navigate, a canvas awaiting her distinctive strokes. She inhaled deeply, gathering her thoughts, ready to confront the shadows threatening her resolve. "I understand that refinement is crucial," she proclaimed, her voice steady. "But my vision and craft are not up for negotiation. I will not dilute my authenticity or my heritage for fleeting acclaim." The critic regarded her, his piercing gaze a mixture of skepticism and curiosity. For so long, she had molded herself to fit the expectations of others, but now clarity propelled her to embrace the depth of her individuality. She had to stand firm against the existing norms that attempted to confine her. As she spoke, the memories of late nights in the kitchen, the aroma of her grandmother's cooking, and the sacrifices of her family re-emerged like a well-loved recipe. They were woven into the fabric of her identity as a chef and the beating heart of her culinary journey. The essence of who she was couldn't merely be stitched into appetizers or desserts. It was intrinsic to every single dish she created. "What do you think defines a chef?" she continued, her passion igniting. "Is it accolades or authenticity, a Michelin star or a legacy of flavor? I'm forging my path, and it's going to be deeply rooted in where I come from." The tension in the air shifted, the critic's earlier scrutiny fading as appreciation mingled with his observation. "I admire your conviction, Maria," he replied, his tone softening. "But the culinary world demands flexibility. Your roots are important, but the world is filled with evolving tastes and trends. Can you evolve without sacrificing your core?" Maria felt a cycle of emotions swell inside her, but she had carved out enough courage to articulate her truth. "Evolving does not mean compromising my identity. Instead, it allows me to present my skills in a new light, an innovative lens through which to share my cultural heritage." In that moment, she realized she had not just prepared a dish, she had initiated a conversation about her purpose. Each plate was a declaration that she would not be just another name in a back room. She was an artist whose craft deserved acknowledgement for its authenticity and innovation.
Their dialogue began to shift. Instead of dissecting her dishes, they were dissecting the very essence of cooking, what it meant to create, to honor one's roots, while daring to explore beyond the comforts of familiarity. The discussions intertwined both history and future possibilities, creating a bridge of understanding that felt powerful and liberating. As their conversation deepened, Maria felt the weight of her ambitions transforming. This was not merely about a critic endorsing her work. It was about embracing the spirit that had fueled her kitchen battles and concluding that her culinary adventure had only just begun. She was achieving clarity with each word spoken. By the end of their meeting, it became evident that she had triumphed, not just in her culinary vision, but in affirming her identity. The critic understood that Maria had risen from the shadows of anxiety and expectation, now standing tall with solid confidence in her journey. As he prepared to leave, he said, "Your voice is strong, and the passion you wield is commendable. Keep that close as you navigate your path forward. This isn't an ending, but an invitation." With those words resonating as encouragement, Maria felt an exhilarating rush of pride bubble up. She was buoyed by the realization that her dishes were no longer just meals served in a restaurant. They were her narrative, a narrative she was finally ready to share freely. The following weeks unfolded with newfound ambition, each day in the kitchen a testament to her personal achievement. Maria leaned into her vision, establishing her identity as a chef who celebrated her roots while embracing innovation. With every dish, she infused a part of her story, skillfully blending the rich flavors of tradition with electrifying modern tastes. Eventually, she began to gain widespread recognition, not only for her culinary genius, but for the authenticity she cultivated in each experience she created. Maria had achieved more than just professional success. She had conquered the internal conflicts that had plagued her. She now stood as a beacon of determination,
confident in her ability to forge connections that honored both her heritage and her aspirations. Ultimately, she proved that the intersection of ambition and authenticity paved the way for fulfillment. The kitchen, once a sanctuary besieged by doubt, became a playground of creativity, molded by her will to rise. Maria's journey was a testament to the truth that true transformation happens from within, and that recognition follows when passion is aligned with integrity. Now it's time for you to take action. You need to subscribe now to the channel to stay connected to more exclusive emotional stories like Maria's inspiring journey. Leave a like now to feed the algorithm and help others discover these powerful narratives. Comment your reactions and theories about Maria completing her journey.
Share instantly this video with at least 5 friends who truly need to hear this empowering conclusion. This is the moment to show your support for personal overcoming stories. Don't wait even one more second to make an impact.